This list is a bit longer. As the chairman explained a little earlier, we get 21 and a half delegates and 21 and a half alternates in Congressional District 2. So there will be 22 names. Obviously, one of those would only carry a half vote. The nomination for delegates in Congressional District 2 are Anna Roston, Bill Ferguson, Bobby Leggett, Gabriel Rutledge, George Wallace, Gerald Kusha, J.R. Jones, James Smith, Jeremiah Robinson, Johnny Younger, Lee Bush, Leslie Ellington, Miles Williams, Mary Landon, Mike Morgan, Phil Fisher, Philip Gunn, Philip Scott, Renetta Scott, Shirley Matthews, Steve Pickett, and Velda Phillips. Alternates in Congressional District 2 are Thomas Ash, Barbara Rooks Jackson, Bill Dees, Carolyn Morgan, George Matthews, Jim Ellington, John Lewis, Catherine Fisher, Leslie Morton, Lily Lovett, Lisa Gunn, Lisa Jones, Mamie Mayberry, Mike Cashin, Richard Cook, Rita Anderson, Roger Onby, Rodney Pitts, Ruth Ann Williams, Stephen Phillips, Steve Stanford, and Vanette Ash. I move those be elected.
Second.
All right, can I have a copy, please? All right, there's a motion and a second. I know this is a long list. It's a long list. It is printed front and back. And I hope everybody gets one that on the front has alternate, on the front has Douglas, and on the back has alternates. If you get one that doesn't, then you know this is what you should get. There's a motion and a second. Justin.
Well, I'm just going to say
that again. I know you've done it before, but give me your name again. I'm sorry.
I'm going to say it again because I didn't get my fair chance to really do it. I didn't understand, but I'm making a motion that out of District 2, these people need to be here at this meeting, and if you want to be a delegate, we'll do it that way. Can that get second?
Hold on a second. All right, you've been recognized.
That's been second.
No, there's a motion on the floor. I'm sorry, that's out of order. We'll have the discussion of what you asked.
That motion is not in order at this point because there's a motion on the floor to nominate, to adopt the report of the nominating committee. What you could do would be to vote against the report of the nominating committee, and then you could offer that motion before we move. That's right, and it would take, to amend the rules of the convention, it would take a 2/3 vote. So the process for that would be to vote down the nominating committee report for Congressional District 2, then make a motion to amend the rules to require people to be present, which would be a 2/3 vote, and then there's a possibility. I would, as parliamentarian, I would advise against that course of action. Here's why: because we haven't provided notice in the call of convention to people who could be interested in serving on the executive committee, it would concern me, or as delegate, it would concern me that the state party might say because we hadn't given people adequate notice of the requirements, we had changed the
Just like I
requirements.
did. I went there this morning, one of my precinct agents didn't have a shot because y'all went through it. This is District 2. I'm not even in this district. I'm saying if the people in District 2 don't agree with this list and they want the opportunity to be a state delegate, second.
The first step would be to take a vote on the nominating committee report, and that would determine whether or
I'm
not.
gonna sit down and let them do it. I'll withdraw.
Okay. We will deal with that after we have the vote. About whether or not we can amend the rules. I've got a question right here. Yes.
Sonia Smith for precinct 96.
Sonia Smith from Precinct 96.
I'm just curious, I don't, the list of alternates and the delegates to the state, how was the decision made? Who was put on which list? And were the people who sent in their information on time, who didn't end up on either list, why would that be? They
All right.
would be voting as a slate instead of individual.
All right, then, I think there are three questions, let me try to answer them. The fact that somebody submitted information on time is not an issue, because we probably had 80 or 90 people that submitted information that would like to go. This is not anybody can go that wants to, we're limited to 21 and a half people plus 21 and a half alternates, so there has to be a winnowing down process, and just like any other election, you can't just say, I want it, so you get it, so not being proven, that's just, there has to be a winnowing process somewhere. All right, the second part is why on one list or the other. You know, it's basically, I would say, on what people have done with the party for the last 4 years and being involved in doing things. It's just it's like any other nominating committee process. Like any other nominating committee process of trying to decide how to get there. You know, how do you get the right 21 and a half people? Because you're always leaving people out. Let me say this. In Northeast Jackson, where we get to elect 3, we had 60 or 70 people that want those 3. And so there's a limiting factor to this. I would, you know, the problem in Congressional District 2, where we elect 21 and a half, is a whole lot broader than the Congressional. I'm going to recognize you in just a second, so you can, I'm going to get you. So in Congressional District 3, we had a lot of people that wanted those 3 spots. And how did we pick those 3?
What about vote?
Oh, wait, what about what?
What about vote?
It was, excuse me, point of order, that I like the idea that it is not by vote. We're following the rules and the bylaws of the party of how we get here. Now we're having to vote here. And so, hold on a second, I've got a question. Yes, ma'am.
Patricia Frazier, Clinton won.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know many of these people. I submitted my paperwork, and I believe I would be a good delegate, but no one has a chance to know anything about me, and I don't know anything about most of these people. So how can we decide? Can we get a chance to say why to this body, why we?
You can't, wait, excuse me. Thank you, I hear you, let me answer your question. Right now, there's a motion on the floor for this. If it doesn't pass, certainly you do. If
It's
it
not
does,
going to pass. I mean,
but excuse me, let me, do not, you're out, excuse me, man, you're out of order until I finish. Please. There's a motion on the floor, we got to vote on it. If it does not pass, and then we open it up to others, then we can start to go through that discussion as long as people want to sit here. Right now, I've got a motion on the floor, and we're going to vote on that motion. Before we get to people that are not on the list, we've got to vote this yes or no. Yes.
Move the question.
No,
Move the question.
I have a, can I respond to your teaching?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Patricia Frazier, Clinton won. My concern is that I do not know these people. Now, I realize that's not what's on the motion on the table. Could you explain to me, and a lot of other people here don't understand, how do these people get on?
Okay, I can do that very, very quickly, if you'll let me do it very quickly. Let me also say I'm not familiar with you either, so that makes us even. I mean, that's
I'm going to tell people about it.
excuse me, that's okay, but I'm just saying, there are a lot of people in here, there's nobody in here that knows everybody in here.
Right.
And there's a lot of people in here. Wait, excuse me, do not interrupt me again, do not recognize, you gotta be recognized before you speak. And if I'm speaking, I do not want, the other people don't deserve that. I hear your question. People here, a lot of them do know a lot of these people. Nobody knows people all over the Congressional District 2. It covers everywhere from Finder and Bellhaven right over here, goes to the north side of the county, across the Brownsville and down to Utica. I mean, it's a pretty broad area. Speaker Gunn, we need to, you don't respond for that. That's supervisor. Okay, blame you for that. Can't blame you for that too. There's a motion on the floor. All and call for question. Notice you've spoken twice. You can only speak once to a motion. Louder, yes.
Can I try to?
You can, please. I wish you would.
Let me try to bring some clarity in as I understand it. Okay, so this is my understanding. Heretofore, we have had a county executive committee. Pete Perry has been that chairman. That committee has existed for the last 4 years. Pete Perry has been that chairman. That committee dissolved once this convention began. But in his capacity as chairman, just like in my capacity as speaker, I get to nominate various committees. He got to appoint the nominating committee. I don't know, Wiles is the chairman of that. Who else is on that committee? Phil Fisher and Pete Perry are on that committee. That's news to me. I didn't know that. Those three then are charged with the privilege and responsibility of putting forward that slate of names. So those three, constituting the nominating committee, selected that slate of names. Those of you who are Baptists like me know that in a business meeting, when a recommendation comes from a committee, it does not require a second. So what you have before you is the presentation of the committee of that slate of names. That is the motion before you now. You vote on that motion. If that motion fails, then the recommendation of the committee is cast aside, and I guess at that point, nominations are received and opened. So back, well, that gentleman disappeared. Oh, there he is, okay. So that kind of gives some clarity to what happened in Congressional District 3, I guess it was we voted on a second ago. The nominations for District 3, I assume the committee had applications that they reviewed, and they selected them from among those applications to slate of names. So those of you who submitted, that's how I understand the process works. So what would happen here procedurally would be that if this motion fails, then you would have an opportunity to nominate
That's what the
four.
chairman said earlier to Jason.
But to speak to his request that the person has to be present, that would require a 2/3 vote.
I wasn't
which-
asking for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excuse me, we got a motion on the floor, fixing to get to our seats. I will say that I appointed Lyle Williams to be chairman. He asked to get somebody, since he is from the south part of the county, he suggested getting somebody from the Clinton area, somebody from northeast Jackson area, which is where most of the votes are coming. So that's how I didn't appoint the committee, I appointed him, he appointed the committee. Yes, sir.
Charles Scribner, C2.
Wait just a second, Charles Scribner, C2.
C2. I move division of the slate.
But first, I thank you, but that's out of order. First, we're going to take a voice vote, and if that doesn't work, then we'll go straight to division, but I'm going to try it anyway, okay? We'll go to one. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye! All opposed? No! Okay. This is not a shout out at Mr. Speaker. Is this how that works in your house? Division. It is. We're going to division. We're going to division. All right.
Chairs in down.
Well, it's not who can shout the loudest. All in favor, please stand and remain standing till you total sit. We're voting on the nominating committee motion to adopt this as the delegate from District 2. All those opposed to the motion, please stand. Okay. The motion passes 54-39. Thank y'all. If anybody wants to make a motion to turn down the thermostat, I would be glad to do it. Thank you very much. I don't know where it is or how to do it. Now then, that is basically the business that we have to do. Let me explain one thing that we didn't explain before. There are 21 and a half delegates. The last name on that list is who becomes a half delegate, but we'll deal with them there. That's the process. That is the business on the agenda. If you have been elected as a delegate or an alternate delegate and are here today, I'd like to see you afterwards for just a few minutes to tell you what to expect about the state convention. You asked when it was. Somebody over here did. I forgot it. I was going to say that. It's May the 10th, May the 14th, which is 3 weeks from today. It's at the Hilton Hotel, and I believe it starts at 10 o'clock. But if you're a delegate and alternate, you know, and guest invited, there's a fee. I just want to say that. All right, I want to tell y'all about two little pieces of business. We're going to adjourn and send them out here. We're going to let anybody else that has any other business. Right now, for the last 4 years, the Hinds County Republican Party has been in a lawsuit against the Hinds County Board of Supervisors over the redistricting plan that they put in place when they tried to redo the supervisor, when they did the supervisor districts. And we felt like they did not treat certain areas of the county properly. That suit has gone through the federal court. It is in the judge's hands right now, and we're waiting for a decision from it. We should get it soon. We've been trying to negotiate with the Board of Supervisors to come up with a settlement that would be satisfactory to us and that they would agree with. So far, we hadn't done that. We have expended about $15,000 on that lawsuit that we entered into trying to say Robert Graham and his friends, when they controlled the board, which was before Tony was on there. Don't let me blame Tony for this. It's when Phil was on there, but he was the only one that he could get to vote with me. The 4-1 vote on the redistricting plan, and Phil was the one. So actually, Phil Fisher is one of the, it's the Hinds County Republican Party and Phil Fisher who filed the lawsuit. And we spent about $15,000 on legal fees. We got some rates on it that should cost about $40,000. And we're hoping for a good result out of it, or else a settlement with them. I'm not here to tell you anything about it other than that it's ongoing. We're trying to say that Robert Graham and his buddies on the board fix it up for them and against Republicans in the county. We've done several other minor things that are just ongoing. I would like to ask anybody that's in this room, I don't want anybody to hear me, anybody that's in this room that wants to get involved and help with whatever the party is doing, on behalf of the committee, we got 15 members, they'll elect 21 more. And whoever the next chairman is, if you want to get involved, come in there and get involved. Come in there, there's plenty of work to do, and we'd like to have everybody in there doing it. So come join us, jump in the pool, it's a lot of fun. Emil wants to say something as the secretary over here.
The biggest thing, and sort of echoing what Pete has said, we have forms for you to apply to join the executive committee, and whether you're on the committee or not, this man gets up at 5 o'clock, he's not up at 5 o'clock, he is out at 5 o'clock every election day, every primary, making sure that primaries happen, and he spends more than a full-time job. What he's doing right now, we talk about who should be chairman, he spends more time on this than many people do on full-time jobs, managing things like the lawsuit against the county, recruiting poll workers, training those poll workers. So we would certainly love for everyone out there to get involved, and I'd love for us to give Pete a round of applause for the hard work he does.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate the applause. Rather let me pass the plate. Y'all just contribute it because this job doesn't pay anything. There's no pay that goes with being on the executive committee or being chairman, contrary to a lot of people's opinion. Anybody have anything at all that they want to say? I'm going to recognize you in a second. Anything at all you want to say, but I do want to tell anybody else here that the official business of the convention is over unless somebody's going to make some motion real quick. If I can ask you, Rita, if you got something of official business you want to bring up, let's do that so we can do it while if people want to get home and mow the grass. Otherwise, I'd be glad for everybody to stay here. Rita Anderson from Raymond 1.
I suppose you call this a point of information. We've elected 14 or 15 members to the executive committee today.
14.
14.
Yes.
Those will meet together, and will they elect the chairman from that group, or will the
I
other
understand.
three?
Yeah, let me give you an answer. I know what you're asking.
Okay.
We're going to, and I was fixing to make this announcement too. If you're here and one of those 14 people that were elected to the executive committee, I'd like you to meet over here after we adjourn, solely for the purpose of deciding a time and date convenient to y'all for your next meeting. Right now, you do not have a chairman when we adjourn, and it's my job to keep you convened and in order to elect a chairman. I'm going to answer your question. But I'd like y'all, if you're here as an executive committee member, to get up in this little section right over here. For those of you that are not on the executive committee but are delegates to the state convention or alternates, coming out here, we'll give you a 2-minute discussion about what to expect and what information we need and all that kind of stuff. Those 14 people, ready to answer your question, will elect 3 at-large members, because that's what it takes to meet the state law of how a committee has to be. Those 18 people elect officers, they can decide if they want to expand as big as they want to, and then elect officers, or they can elect among the 18. They could just stay at 18. So that's not set one way or the other, it's up to them. I mean, that's not a set in stone one way or the other, if that makes sense.
Well, as you know, many of the people that are here are just beginning to be involved at grassroots level. It's the reason I bring that up, because if I understand it correctly, after the at-large delegates are elected, then the chairman will be elected. Is that correct?
I think what I just said is correct, let me try to say it again. Oh yeah, it is after, but it's not necessarily, it could be after 18, or it could be after 36. It could be either one, it would be up to the
So we
committee.
don't at this moment be able to look at this list and say, we're happy, our chairman will come from that.
No, to answer your question, no. Your chairman will come from that list, and maybe 4 more, or maybe 22 more. It will be up to the committee to decide, and I'm trying to think about what past precedent's been. I think in the past it's come from 18, but I would have to go back and look at minutes to say that for sure, because I can't remember 4 years back. I don't know what past precedents has been on that, but it's after you get to 18 as a minimum. Does that
It
answer?
does, and I hope I'm not out of order to say this.
At this point, you're not.
Thank you. We've got a lot of interested people here who want to get engaged, and I will voice and echo to you and Emil that people need to work the polls. Please do it. Please do it. If you want fair and open elections and honest elections, you've got to do it. Don't leave it to somebody else. But that wasn't my point. The next point is
I knew
this.
what.
You've got email addresses for all of us, I hope, or most of us. Communication within this party is so very important to keep the grassroots involved. Please, when that committee goes together and they start their process of electing the rest of them, let us know who our representatives are in this county. Right now, we stand here and we don't know who will lead the county party for the next 4 years. I wish I did, but presumably we don't know. So that would be my request, that the county committee would let us all know who our leadership is.
Rita, I hear you, thank you, I appreciate your comments. I'm going to come, you hit 2 different areas. I'm going to comment on the first one first. Thank you for making the bid for poll workers. Rita's been a good poll worker for a number of years. Most of the time, in most every election we've got along great, has a real good time. I was trying to figure out how to say that nicely. Thank you. She worked at Pine Haven this last election on March the 8th with a good crew. Yeah, it is an education. Mr. Speaker, I wish you'd put a bill through the legislature that says every member of the legislature has to work as a poll worker with their names not on the ballot, so they can learn how to live with those laws that get passed and they don't know how to work. Yeah, you certainly can. Yeah, let me finish answering her question and then I'll make this real quick. We should have everybody's email address in here because they should have put it on the sign in if you use email. We generally try to go get that. Let me tell you that some people don't write their email addresses real good, and all it takes is a period of time to change it. So if you don't hear from us in the next little while, send something back to us again so we can make sure we got it right. 'Cause in trying to transfer all those to programs, sometimes it gets lost. We would like to do exactly what you're saying. I'm gonna say to you that once this committee forms and whoever they elect as chairman, you always don't know when you leave here who's gonna be chairman. I mean, that's the case every election. That, you know, that they take and incorporate that and put it into whatever kind of communication. We will try, I hope, to resurrect this, Republican club so that anybody that wants to come and be involved can come do it, whether you're on the executive committee or not. But if we do it, then come. You know, come and be there and participate. Now then, as my friend, younger friend over here points out to me, not being the social media person myself, go to Facebook and like our page on Facebook and that gives the connection back again so we know how to get the connection back. So I don't know how all that works, but he does that. So if you use Facebook, go like that. Just 1 second, I got a request from Lucian to speak here for something. Was that to her or who wants to give that one? All right, Philip, both guys, go ahead.
I don't mean to prolong the meeting, I just want to echo what Rita said. I would really want to thank the poll workers. You just don't know how critically important that is until your name is on the ballot and you have a contest or an election. It is so vitally important for the integrity of our election process for good, competent, diligent people to work the polls. I did once upon a time. Once. And it was tough. It is tough. It ain't worth the $100 they pay you. But it is so vitally important to the election. And I want to thank each of you. I have thought about passing a bill to make a legislative.
We've talked about
it. Their names are on the ballot.
Not every election, they can run on this year.
Maybe they can do it in a presidential.
When their names are on the ballot.
That's all I want to say. For those of you who work the polls, thank you. And I'm telling you, it's becoming more and more important for us in Hinds County to do that. It's just getting harder and harder to get there. So thank you.
Listen, I'm gonna get you in a second. We have 110 precincts in Hinds County. It is hard for us to get 500 people to work in precincts when the Democrats are also trying to get 700 or 800. We need to reduce the number of precincts in Hinds County and save some money. I've been fighting with supervisors for 3 years to get them reduced. I think it ought to be more like 60 to be appropriate. Talk to your supervisor and tell them to push to reduce the number of precincts, then we can get better poll workers.
I was just going to say to Rita's point, one of the wonderful things, and I'll be very brief because I know we're all ready to get out and enjoy this beautiful day, but one of the wonderful things that's come out of this election cycle is how many new people are getting engaged in the party. And if you're as a party not growing, then you're dying. And so I was just added to the executive committee by the convention's vote, but we'll have to add additional people. And so let's visit and make sure that lots of people, and Rita, I know you've been active for eons, but lots of folks here who may be their first convention, let's make sure we've got, and we will make sure we've got good representation of new folks, because we need to have everybody who wants to be engaged in the party involved. So let's visit after this week. I think that's important.
If I can add to that, you know, most of us in here go to church. And it ain't enough to show up on the Christmas and Easter. And it's not just important to get involved with a single presidential campaign. One of the ways that people get, chosen to be delegates, we know they're Republicans. One of the reasons people get put on the executive committee is we know they're Republicans because we know them. And there are party activities that aren't connected to any particular president, that aren't connected to any particular governor, that are just about the party. We would love for you to get involved. If you show up on Christmas and Easter, you're not going to get put on the deacon board. We are asking you, we are begging you. Today was wonderful. If we don't know who you are, please make that change. We want to know who you are, and we want you involved in making a difference in this country.
May I make a suggestion?
All right, just 1 second. We're going to do this real quickly.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion if I could.
If it's to adjourn, I've had 2 people before you make a motion to adjourn.
Go ahead.
I have 2 people with their hands up. So real quickly, Laura, let's do this quickly. Wait, Laura, wait over to precinct 46.
When there's work to be done in the party, it would behoove everyone who is in this room to be given an email that you need workers to do such and such a job. I think that would help participation a good deal.
We do everything we can, we'll take every chance we can. Yes, no.
Noah Crosby, speaking for Precinct 6 of Hinds County. On behalf of all of Mississippi Federation of College Republicans, I got to thank every person in this room for being active. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Wait. I got one hand raised. But let me say, the college Republicans are creating scholarship funds. They gave one out this last year. They're trying to raise money to do another one, a series of them. We're going to be participating from Hinds County, supporting one of those in our thing we established a few years ago. They're doing wonderful work.
Robert Anderson, Rankin 1. When you say you need people to come in and do those things, you go plug in Hinds County Republican Party on the internet, you see nothing, you find nothing, and there's no, you don't know where to go to get involved.
I understand. I'm not one of those that lives on the internet. Maybe that's the fault. Maybe the next committee will get more involved. Come in and help us set it up so we can be involved on the internet. I mean, now we got your emails. Wait, I did not have your email address before this. I didn't know how to get hold of it. I do now. No, but you wouldn't have anyway.
No, I'm just talking about on the internet, how to find out.
Okay, excuse me. The sun was in my eyes when I'm trying to look at you. Moving over, coming to the back. Okay, but now I know how to communicate. We'd love to see things on that. We also need funds. It costs money to do that. We don't have funds. Anybody want to contribute? We'd be glad to have it. Motion over here, that's your honor.
Mr. Chairman, could we have a motion to adjourn, please?
All in favor? Aye. Thank y'all for being here. Delegates here, real quickly, real short. Committee members over there, real quickly, real short.
Dr. Paul Chin of our church,
Yes.
African Bible
I was going to say
College.
Paul Chin, Emil Wilson.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Can you communicate with him?
Please, fill this out right now. Give it to me before we leave right now. Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot.
You are very welcome, sir.
He's our president.
Yes, sir.
He's our president of the African Bible College.
I know, and I want to get you a resume. I graduate from RTS this year.
Oh, really?
So I want to get you a resume.
Okay. Let's close the flap. Let's go. This is your dad.